Neil. How are you doing? weapon, it's just. You are a weapon. Yeah, well, that's it. I'm just a weapon. It's always about decision. I have an arm that fires.
My name is Brooks Wiley, and it is my incredible pleasure to welcome you here tonight. We are here to celebrate the extraordinary contributions of our truly extraordinary ninth head of school, Stephen S. Piltch. I'd like to start by asking you to take a moment to think of a word or a phrase, or an event or a memory, or something that you associate with Steve. Steve has touched so many of us in so many different ways. I fully expect each person's fondest memory is unique, but it no doubt somehow relates to a way in which Steve has impacted and enhanced your lives and the lives of those you love most. It is the totality of all of these memories and thoughts that marks Steve's impact on the school. A hallmark of Steve's speaking style at assemblies is to call for applause for those that are performing or are being honored. So, with what other phrase or word or memory or event that you have in your mind, and in deference to this tradition, I'd like to ask that we give Steve a round of applause. Maybe the first of many this evening, but I know I'm going to let the rest happen organically. Steve and I have debated many things over the years, and one of those things is the definition of an intimate group to celebrate this evening. This is Steve's definition of an intimate group. The reality is that there are many, many people who have worked closely with Steve over the years, and on whom Steve has had a profound impact, who are not here tonight, for the sole reason that we couldn't fit them here. I'd like to welcome everyone who is Steve's family, personal friends, current and former trustees, Steve's truly incredible central administrative team, current and former colleagues, a few members of the broader community with whom Steve has worked closely and for whom he has the highest regard. Over the course of this evening, we will hear from representatives of all constituencies in the school and hopefully give everyone a sense of the extraordinary ways in which Steve has shaped and changed the school. We also hope that everyone will leave with a somewhat greater understanding of the breadth and depth of Steve's influence and impact on the school as an institution and also on all of us as individuals. Knowing that an open mic for toasts could keep us here well past midnight, we have videotaped selected toasts to share with you tonight. There will be a video booth at the community event on Sunday, and I encourage everyone to attend the community event on Sunday and to videotape an additional toast for Steve. I also would encourage all of you to take a look at your place cards, the name of your table cards. If you open them up on the inside, you will see a space to write down the toast that you would have given, or other thoughts or comments that you'd like to share with Steve this evening. We will collect those at the conclusion of dinner. There are pens on the table for you. At this point, I'd like to call on Henry Katz, our all-school president, to come up and say a few words.
Good evening. My name is Henry Katz, and I had the pleasure of serving as Shipley's all-school president this past school year. While my time as all-school president may be over, apparently my speaking engagements have not. Before I continue, I'd like to welcome next year's all-school president, Declan Buckley, and former and future 12th grade class presidents, Aishia Johnson and Lexi Wojtewicz. However, I could not be happier to stand up here tonight on behalf of Shipley's student body to thank Dr. Piltch for his 27 years of life-changing work at Shipley. My relationship with Dr. Piltch extends longer than I can even remember. He has known me since the day I was born, the same year that my sister Sophie entered pre-K at Shipley. However, my first memory of Dr. Piltch was in kindergarten, when he came to read his favorite book, A Rainbow of Friends, to my class. And while my 5-year-old self could barely sit still as I admired the colorful illustrations and rhyming phrases, this would quickly become one of my favorite traditions at Shipley. I couldn't help but hold back tears when Dr. Piltch read A Rainbow of Friends to the entire school at our final all-school assembly last month. Few people get the privilege of being ahead of school, and even fewer get the opportunity to stay at one place for 27 years. Dr. Piltch often says he's the luckiest head of school in the country, but I feel as if I am one of the luckiest students in the country, having had the opportunity to attend a school with him leading the way. So lucky that I've decided to follow you, Dr. Piltch, to the University of Pennsylvania next fall. Dr. Piltch, I wish you the best in your future endeavors at Penn and all of the other wonderful things that are to come in your future. If you ever need someone to grab lunch with, I'm just a short trot down Locust Walk away. On behalf of Shipley students from 1992 to the present, and for the amazing things you have done for the students of Shipley's future, thank you.
I'd like to call on Steve's children who asked to address Steve and the assembled group. I'd also like to encourage everyone to eat. We have a very full program tonight, and if we don't eat while things are happening, we never will.
Hello, and thank you all for being here this evening with us and our parents to celebrate our dad's 27 years at Shipley. I'm Allie.
I'm Matt. I'm Jamie.
And we're very excited and a bit nostalgic to be here tonight. The last time we got asked to make a speech in honor of our dad, we sang a song. We promised not to do that tonight because though we learned many things at Shipley, singing was not one of them.
We are so grateful for the opportunity to celebrate our dad's retirement from Shipley after 27 remarkable years. As you can all certainly attest to, he has impacted everyone in the Shipley community profoundly. His departure from Shipley is significant in many ways, from the drudgery of cleaning out his office after 27 years of mild disorganization, to saying goodbye to each and every member of the community. As our dad leaves Shipley, we are also, as a family, leaving our home. And by that, we do not just mean the home at the corner of Montgomery Avenue. We also mean Shipley itself.
Growing up, we didn't have a backyard. We had the school fields just outside. We didn't have neighbors. We had the wonderful individuals at Shipley just across the road. We didn't have the lessons our parents just taught us at home. We were surrounded by those lessons every day.
My parents have always been my #1 fans, as evidenced by their many trips to Williamstown my freshman year of college to watch me sit quietly at the end of the bench on the lacrosse team. Not only is my dad one of the greatest fans that I've had, though, he's also the best coach I've ever known, helping me prepare mentally and physically for every sports season and any challenges I face off the field. My freshman year at Shipley, I went out for the field hockey team. Something important to note is I am not the most athletic person. My brothers had joked on more than one occasion that my Williams College lacrosse career was the definition of mind over matter, which I think is sort of the ultimate backhanded compliment, even though I can't help but largely agree. Needless to say, I was very worried for preseason, and in particular the timed mile test, which I thought required us to run under a 7-minute mile in order to have a shot at making the varsity team. At the time, that felt impossible, and trust me, if you saw me run now, you would certainly agree. That summer at the beach, I trained for preseason. My dad measured the exact distance of a mile And when I was finally ready to run for time, my dad and my Uncle Jamie drove and biked beside me up and back, cheering me on, offering words of encouragement, and helping me pace myself for the entire mile. I'm sure they looked utterly ridiculous as they moved up Cedar Avenue at a snail's pace. But we returned to the house, thrilled as I clocked in at about 6 minutes and 50 seconds, and confident I would get down to my goal of 6:30 over the next few weeks. Spoiler alert, though I ran pretty decently at preseason, I was cut from the team that year, and the mile test was untimed. However, I had learned an important lesson about setting goals and hard work. As my dad often says, it may not be in the immediate moment, but if you put in the time and you prepare, good things will happen. I think that this lesson on hard work goes hand in hand with perhaps the most important lesson that my dad taught me through athletics, which is to run everywhere on the sports field. Run off at halftime, run off for timeouts, run off at the end of the game to shake hands, whether you're winning or whether you're losing. I think this is an important metaphor for life. Even when things aren't going your way or people aren't watching, you should always give it 100%. These lessons in hard work certainly framed my 4 years of lacrosse at Williams, where I walked on to the team my freshman year. But they've been equally, if not more important as I faced challenges in the classroom and the steepest learning curve that I ever had when I joined the real world.
If hard work was a key ingredient to the home and school our dad built, a belief in the importance of process, especially when things look bad, was the broth, the language, and the idea that surrounded and informed everything our dad ever taught us. This belief in process was probably most important with me, forever the problem child. The first major bump in my life at Shipley and at 841 Montgomery Avenue was also perhaps the most public. The stage was the first day of kindergarten for the second time. After weeks of trying to convince my parents not to hold me back, despite that I could not hold a pencil and could not say half the letters in the alphabet, I took my complaint public. On the first day of school, I sat on the stairs of Holland House, crying and refusing to go in. Being the caring community that Shipley is, a teacher walked up to me and asked, "Are you okay?" Through my tears, I said emphatically, "My parents have ruined my life." The teacher then offered to call my parents and ask my name. I told them that I was Jamie Piltch, emphasis on the last name. The woman I was speaking with was Beth Boreanaz on her first day at Shipley. Needless to say, she rightfully did not call my parents. Several weeks later, after continued crying at school, I always got a piece of candy when I cried, and slamming doors upon my returns home, my kindergarten teacher called a meeting with my parents to consider whether maybe, for the sake of myself and the class, I should really go on to first grade. While my mom had started to wonder, even as the parent who is actually the calm one most of the time, my dad in that meeting stood by his decision. The way my dad handled my sadness and frustration in that moment was emblematic in my mind of what made him such a wonderful father and head of school. He always listened, but he stayed the course, trusting his instinct about me, the student, and Shipley, the school. When 11 years later, I thought about leaving Shipley, he did just the same. He knew that as I struggled with the school, he needed to let me do so by exploring and questioning, instead of shutting me down. And ultimately, I chose to stay here in part because of his trust that disagreement, frustration, and struggle are a part of learning and maturing, and are evidence that the process is working. And Dad and Mom, since you may never get to hear me say this again about anything in my entire life, you can tell me I told you so about kindergarten.
While Jamie flirted with leaving Shipley, I was never especially interested in the idea. I still remember the car ride in 7th or 8th grade when my dad asked me if I wanted to consider exploring going to another school. I promptly told him that the only way I was leaving is if I could go to Agnes or Baldwin, and I didn't think they'd let me in. That doesn't mean I did not face my fair share of challenges while I was at Shipley. Some were funny, like when I ran down the baseline of a basketball court as a 5-year-old and was hit in the head with a last-second shot from the opposite side of the court. A video captured for the world to see on America's Funniest Home Videos, and now YouTube today. Some moments were much harder. Like when in spring of my senior year at Shipley, playing soccer, I shattered my eye socket and suffered a traumatic brain injury. The moment was one of the scariest of my life. The months that followed, some of the hardest. And as with every difficult moment in my life, in the life of my siblings, Mom and Dad were there. My injury took place in Delaware. Thank goodness my mom was at the game. She drove me to the hospital and stayed by my side as long as she could. Dad soon joined her. They negotiated with the doctors to let Dad stay in my room overnight, as I had just turned 18 and was no longer a minor, so it was technically not allowed. They drove the medical decision-making as I was not able to. As I recovered following facial reconstruction, they were a constant support system, bringing me soft food and smoothies I could eat and drink, giving me pep talks and being patient when my memory inevitably lapsed, and helping me think through the consequences of this head injury, my third, for my life as a prospective college athlete and far, far beyond. Mom and Dad's love and care, along with my siblings, was essential to my healing as I left for college 4 months after the injury, no longer a college athlete, but excited to enroll in Williams. The type of love and support they provided then, they also provided to all three of us in our times of need. Not only when it came to injuries and health issues, but also when it came to our emotional challenges, which Jamie rightfully highlighted were many, and anything else we struggled with. Along with Mom, Dad was a constant support in every moment of difficulty, making sure that we felt safe and loved, and even more importantly, or equally importantly, helping us to be resilient in those moments, to bounce back in even the most challenging times.
Our dad's coaching and his emphasis on our trying even when others aren't watching, his commitment to the process even in the face of frustration, and his constant love and support in both good times and bad helped turn Shipley into the home we know and love.
And the most wonderful part is that our dad did not do this only for us. He did it for everyone who stepped into his office. The approach he took to parenting, he took to being ahead of school. Over the last several months, we've collected memories from students, colleagues, and friends. And we've been humbled and amazed to see the impact they've had on the lives of so many people. One thing that came through in the stories was how much our dad made Shipley a home for every person in the community. A place where everyone was wrapped in the same support, the same thoughtfulness, and the same love that we were.
Dad, thank you for making Shipley a home for us and a home for everyone. We will certainly miss coming back to the yellow house on the corner of Montgomery Avenue. And everyone for whom you've helped make this place a home will miss having you there too. We love you so much. Thank you for everything. Congratulations on an incredible 27 years.
Steve, it's my honor and my pleasure to be able to recognize you tonight. You have been the head of school at Shipley for a long time, longer than I've been a commissioner. People ask me how long. I've been a lower rank commissioner. It's been 14 years. But you are the dean of the heads of school for independent schools in this community. But you and I have worked together on many projects. You and I have worked on projects that led to the demolition of Thornbrook and led to the Shipley Commons, which is a fabulous presence on Montgomery Avenue for Shipley. New parking, which of course is needed. The renovations to Old Main. The fields, the netting, and of course the courts. The tennis courts and the squash courts. Speaking of courts, Steve, there's one thing that you still have to get done, and that's the courts next door, College Hall. I need you to buy that and make that part of the Shipley campus. Your shoes will be big ones to fill, and you'll be missed in this community. You'll be missed by Shipley School, and I will miss you. I wish you great success and happiness in the next stage in your career.
You had as Shipley's leader and super champion. My hat is off to you for all you have accomplished. You should be proud of the fact that your tireless efforts have made Shipley a leader in educational cutting-edge programs. And the campus has had an amazing transformation from my years as a student here. I've enjoyed 25 years of your 27-year run as a trustee and friend. I think we were a pretty good head board chair team for 7 of those years. I hope that the next chapter in the Steve and Sunny story is as stimulating and rewarding for both of you as your Shipley chapter has been. I wish you both happiness, health, and success in whatever evolves in that next chapter. And I hope that we find ways to stay in touch often. Congratulations, my good friend.
See the look I'm getting from Steve. So I'd like to take a little bit of time to run through an abbreviated version of the past 27 years and highlight the most significant accomplishments of the time that Steve has spent as head of school. For the past 27 years, Steve has led Shipley with exceptional vision and an extraordinary personal touch, as I think we have heard. A 27-year head of school is a rare commodity, and both our experience and all empirical research tells us that we benefit greatly from this consistency and the implementation of a long-term vision by a strong and compassionate head of school. Being a head of school is a very hard job. It is sometimes lonely, it's often frustrating. A head of school answers to all constituencies, is frequently called upon to make hard decisions, and is asked to but can't possibly make everyone happy. By all accounts and in all times, Steve has done an extraordinary job. His leadership and singular commitment to doing what is best for Shipley students has impacted every facet of the school. He leaves Shipley a remarkably stronger institution than when he began in 1992, and at all times he has truly lived the school motto, courage for the deed, grace for the doing. And here are the highlights, 10 pages of them. In 1992, the school opened with a total enrollment of 552 students. The endowment stood at $10 million. We had 13% of students on financial aid, and 9% of the student body was made up of students of color. At the time, the school had recently adopted a strategic plan that called for the building of the middle school, the development of a moral and ethical curriculum, and a recommitment to the supporting faculty, which is what we called teachers at the time. We now call them colleagues. Today, we are a school of over 800 students. The endowment stands at $37 million. We have 35% of students on financial aid. That is a tremendous accomplishment that we can provide this education to so many students. 21% of the students are diverse. It's a huge impact, but the numbers only tell part of the story. Over the past 27 years, Steve has also led the work necessary to maintain and improve both our program and our facilities. Under Steve's leadership, we have enhanced our standing as an academically rigorous institution with a dynamic curriculum that focuses on skills versus content and the preparation for work at the highest collegiate levels and beyond. The thinking about what it means to educate students has evolved over time. And over the years, Steve has led teams that have worked to integrate the curriculum across divisions, introduce the interdisciplinary coursework across all areas and all divisions, promote STEAM, bring technology into the classroom in ways that are thoughtful and enhance the learning experience for students, and throughout, recognizing that students learn best when they are effectively engaged in their communities and have a positive sense of their own well-being. Steve has championed the inclusion of character education, a character education curriculum to educate and promote the development of the whole child. The first Mighty Oaks to Tiny Acorns, which is what it was called at the time, assembly, happened in 1991. It surprised me to hear that that was a year before Steve began. Because over time, that has become the hallmark of Steve's approach to everything that he does. With a focus on excellence, acceptance of process of growth, the realization of potential, a focus on community, and an appreciation for each individual's role in the community and the strength that we can take from being a part of a community, Steve has encouraged children to live the Oaks to Acorns mentality. Said simply, he has encouraged an appreciation for where we have been, where we are, and where we will go. Early in his tenure, Steve worked to establish the SEED curriculum. As the impact of SEED expanded and became better understood, the integrated curriculum work led to and culminated with the launch of Positive Education Initiative, incorporating the work of Marty Seligman. In 2017, Shipley became the first school in the country to adopt a school-wide approach to positive education. More than anything else, Steve, I think that will be your lasting legacy here. Over the years, the dual approach of striving for academic excellence while supporting the development of the whole child has allowed for the implementation of many policies and programs and initiatives that have shaped our community and enhanced our student experience. To name a few, in 1997, Steve was responsible for the advent of Students Against Discrimination Day. That day has stayed a part of our curriculum, but has evolved and today is known as Impact Day. In 2014, Shipley became one of the first schools in the country to actively consider and take action to address concerns around student athlete safety and the impact of concussion. He has led the school in groundbreaking work in that area. And in 2016, again at the forefront of inclusive thinking, under Steve's guidance, the school developed, adopted, and formalized policies related to transgender and gender non-conforming students, making it clear that we are an open community to all students. Throughout, behind the scenes, but with critical impact, Steve has also worked to stabilize our budgeting process and bring financial strength to the school. Particularly as we head into difficult times, we are incredibly appreciative of that. He dramatically increased financial aid and substantially increased our endowment. He also oversaw an overhaul of our external branding and marketing efforts. That's all of the programmatic work. Steve also oversaw a complete overhaul over the course of his 27 years here of our campus facilities, keeping us competitive, giving a home to our academic pursuits, and immeasurably enhancing student experience both in the classroom and in our co-curricular activities, particularly arts and athletics. The incredible transformation of the campus facilities under Steve's leadership came in two distinct ways. In the early years, Steve oversaw the opening of the West Middle School, the opening of the Snyder Science Center, construction of the original Avery Silverman Dining Room, early renovations to Riley Theater, the opening of the lower school, and the installation of the turf fields at the farm. Between 2006 and 2017, with Steve at the helm, Shipley raised more than $50 million for the Foundations for Success campaign, and we underwent a transformation of the upper school campus. A comprehensive vision for the upper campus evolved over time and was implemented in 4 phases. By 2011, Shipley had completed work on the Wilson Athletic Complex, which includes a championship turf field, allowing soccer and lacrosse to play significant games on campus to a student crowd, the Ezra Kaiser baseball field, allowing our baseball and softball teams to play home games, which had never been possible in the past, the tennis courts, a parking structure, and a dedicated facilities building for physical plant colleagues. Between 2011 and 2017, phases 2 through 4 kind of all blended together, but we saw the opening of this building, the Shipley Commons, which is a LEED certified building housing a state-of-the-art kitchen and servery, a relocated and expanded Avery Silverman Dining Room, which is where we are tonight, the Chris Wagner Art Center, music and art studios on the 2nd floor, and the Gray Box. The Lark opened a year after the dedication of the Commons, along with renovated space in the main building that created the Griffin Center, updated classroom space, incorporated technology and more collaborative teaching models, into student classrooms and spaces. The conclusion of the campaign in 2017 saw the opening of the International Squash Courts and our on-campus rowing center, both of which again allowed our students to compete here at home. If you take a moment and think about it, there isn't a part of the campus that I didn't just talk about. The entire campus has been reimagined, re-envisioned, and redone by Steve. Under Steve's leadership, we have become a remarkably stronger institution and one that will thrive well into the next 125 years. We have so much to be proud of. A rigorous and highly competitive college preparatory program, talented and committed colleagues, beautifully renovated and newly built facilities, groundbreaking work in positive education, and a strong reputation in both our local and national communities. When he leaves us, Steve will assume a position as the director of the School Leadership Program at the University of Pennsylvania's Graduate School of Education. Steve is an ideal candidate for this position, who will bring a wealth of experience and innovative ideas to the job of teaching the next generation of school heads how to lead. They are incredibly fortunate to have you, Steve. As many of you know, Steve came to us from Harvard where he was the varsity men's coach. I'm not sure what it takes to become a varsity men's coach, but who knew the coach could accomplish so much? We are forever in your debt.
Well, Steve, it's hard to believe that we're here, and it's been a long time. We've been close friends for more than 30 years and wonderful colleagues. I've grown up with you and your family, and my family has grown up with you. And it's hard to believe that we're not going to be speaking on a regular, weekly basis, or at least a couple times a month from here on out, unless it's about the exciting things that you're doing in the next chapter of your life. And one of the things that I have noticed over the years, again, as we've grown together, is that you have become very wise in how you manage things. And I think that that has created a tremendous amount of loyalty for you, for all of the individuals you've touched over the years. So here we are. I'm looking forward to whatever is going to be your next chapter. I'm wanting to see where you're going to land, where Sunny's going to land, and how we're all going to end up growing old together. That's really the part that's going to be exciting from here on out.
I remember when we first got here, I asked to go for a walk. And we walked right in front of this school, maybe 20 yards from here. And I said, are you going to be here for a short amount of time or forever? And you looked at me like I was crazy, and who is this guy? And then you said, well, I think I want to be here for a while. You were. You have been. In fact, you've been here longer than any other head of the school, 27 years. So congratulations and well done. To me, you've transformed everything, from where we are to who's here, to the kind of education which is still emphasized. I would sum that up by saying that you have emphasized character, education for good people who are people of character. This includes positive, but is not limited to positive education, in my view. So, Steve, congratulations. You have literally transformed the Shipley School. It is a better and different place from when you arrived here 27 years ago. Go ahead, take some time off, do whatever you want, but remember and be proud of what you've accomplished here.
I can't imagine Shipley without you, but thankfully I don't have to, because your legacy is imprinted on every child who has gone through here, the kids who are here now, and all the incredible programs that you have put into place here. So you will live on at Shipley, even though you will be doing exciting things elsewhere. Thank you so much for everything.
We're gonna take.
Oh my God, I saw the thorn that you have in there.
Are you supposed to dinner break? Yeah, having them like extra pretty your name and we'll get back to
Thank you, let's hear it for CCP Senator Mogul. Number school, Janice Snowbo. Co-chair of the music department, we're going to appreciate this as well. I'm honored to present the next
piece to you. It actually represents the 7 years that I have had the privilege and honor of working with Steve in this music department. It comes from the movie soundtrack to Whiplash. See, glean what you will from the title. It is too hip to retire.
everyone enjoys their dinner. During this time, if I could encourage you to fill out your cards. I think it would be really
class of 2003. I'm the current president of the Alumni Council. Steve has heard me say something like this about a dozen times this year. We've actually been traveling the country together since last, September. We've been doing regional alumni events, so this is kind of my last one that I get to do with you, Steve. So, I came here when I was a sophomore. When I was 15, Will Tripley was actually a year ahead of me, and he got my application to Shipley for me. His mom's actually here today. I submitted my application and met with Greg Coleman, and came here my sophomore year, and the only thing that was stopping me from getting in here was actually tuition assistance. And when my mom came in and met with Greg and he gave her the price that she wanted, Steve actually came up there afterwards and said, if you still need more, let me know. I want to make sure that you can come here. So, and then I started off my relationship with him. Will actually, if you don't know, Will Tripley was murdered when I was 18 years old. Steve and I weren't very close when I was here, but when that happened when I was in college, Steve and I became very close. We started Foundation after Will. Steve was supportive from the beginning. He let me know that anything that I needed, he would help, and he did that, and he still does that for that foundation. To Jamie's point, to Matt's point, he made this a home for us as alumni. And for most alumni that meet him, the big thing that we remember about him is he can remember the year he graduated, he can remember everything about you, he remembers what sport you played, how many points you had. I mean, he remembers everything about every student that went through this school. His love and passion for the kids is unmatched. Brooks, something that I say at every event Brooks brought up is that this school is better because he's been here. We're in a position of strength financially because of him. We're in a position of strength as far as our curriculum because of him. And outside of the business, he's been, as far as I'm concerned, he's been altruistic. He's been a genuine person, a genuine friend to me. And as alumni, we're truly going to miss you, Steve. And we appreciate everything that you've done. I've said it before that Michael Turner is going to have success here because you laid the foundation of success for him. We appreciate everything that you've done over the last 27 years. And I'll be seeing you in Sunny down in Philadelphia. My office isn't too far away, so you can stop at any time. And thank you for everything. Love you.
I continue to think about what Shipley will be like without you. I struggle with that, because for me, Shipley is you. So what's special about you, Steve, as an educator? You always still wanted to be in the classroom. And the thing that always resonated with me were the days Coulter and Louise ran home and said, guess what? Guess what? Dr. Piltch read to us today. We knew we had chosen the right place because of your presence and your leadership. But really, it's about your being and how I hope you continue to infuse that in the lives of everybody that you meet. I love you very much.
Steve is an amazing teacher, amazing visionary, and an amazing friend. That's what Steve is to us, a deep, caring, steadfast friend who has had breakfast with me for 20 years every few weeks.
We first met Steve and Sunny. Here's a picture of them. And when our daughter Avery was in 3rd grade. Yes, I thought he was young, but even then I knew he had a heart of gold and is a wonderful educator and was going to take Shipley to new heights and build a spectacular campus.
As he leaves Shipley, and goes on to new adventures, there will be a coffee shop in Center City where we will continue this special bond. Good luck to our good friend Steve.
And Sonny and I will be there also. So lots of good luck, Steve. And the privilege to be able to say a few words in recognition, Steve, of your many contributions through the years. When I think of you, perhaps one of the most indelible images in my mind is seeing you on the sidelines of so many baseball games through the years. And you've been there come rain, come shine, no matter what's on your plate. And I know that I've appreciated that, the families have appreciated it as well, and most especially the team. So in continuing with the spirit of baseball, a Jackie Robinson quote came to mind, and he said, "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." And it can certainly be said that you've had a tremendous impact on so many lives here within the larger Shipley community, and we're better for it. So we look forward to seeing your next adventures. I have no doubt you'll hit it out of the ballpark. So onward and upward to you and your lovely family. We're eager to hear about what awaits you. And thank you so much for all of your tremendous contributions to the Shipley community.
I have to say, after 26 years and about 150 faculty meetings, this is my moment where I get to stand here and he gets to sit there. But I first want to begin with a few shout outs. First, I want to acknowledge our siblings who have come from far and wide to be here tonight. Many of you know that Steve is one of 9 children, but what you don't know is how many of them are involved in education as teachers, principals, heads of school, and college professors. Additionally, the Piltches are committed to giving time and resources to education, whether it's coaching Little League or serving on boards. In fact, they still have a scholarship in honor of their parents at Brookline High School, from where they all graduated. Their commitment is clearly a testimony to Mildred and Roy, and between all the noise and chaos of that large family, reminded their children of the power of education and the need to do good work, and be kind. I also want to thank all of you who have made such a difference in our lives and the lives of our children. We are truly grateful and humbled by the unconditional love and support. And to our children, I also say thank you. You learned at an early age that Shipley was a team sport, and I must say you were the greatest captains. When Sue Ann Mannix asked me to speak tonight, she can tell you I was ambivalent. I've had a policy for 27 years of trying to keep church and state separate. A challenging endeavor when you're married to a man who writes a monthly letter about the family stories make up the best material. I did set up some ground rules of what Steve could and could not share, and they were pretty modest. Mainly, he could not talk about my shoe size or my weight. I do share a unique perspective about Steve's Shipley world, as his wife, as a parent in the community, and as a teacher. A trifecta of sorts. And though I'm not a gambler, and I do not understand horse racing, I know I've won big. I know we're here tonight to say thank you to Steve for what he's done for Shipley, but I would like to talk about what Shipley has done for Steve. Steve has learned when Sonny said, "Can you fix the drain, the grill, or change a light bulb?" That meant call physical plant. And when the guys would come, I would say, and this is the truth, you know, he needs to learn to do these things because one day we're going to retire. It's true. And they would politely nod and they'd say, "That's not our problem." And so here we are. And our children are quite concerned that we will be aimlessly wandering around our apartment with power tools and a snow shovel that we think is a plunger. From Linda Van Horn and the 4th grade trip, Steve knows that the best whoopie pies are from the Gooden plant, and Lancaster has the best hard pretzels. He's learned the name of countless children. He can tell you their favorite ice cream, their birthdays, their pets' names, and not just their cats and dogs, their gerbils and their goldfish. And he can tell you their passions and often their worries. Steve has figured out how to give flowers, sweets, and dinners on the school's dime. And though many local businesses are worried about the drop in revenue, Adam W. is thrilled to announce that next year there will be a surplus, thanks to his business savvy. But I think we really know where that surplus is coming from. Steve learned to call snow days with pretty good accuracy, and they could keep the news from me and the kids. Something's a little more challenging in this day of text messaging. There was, in fact, one occasion where I called Margaret Van Steeler. I teach in the upper school, for those of you that don't know, and I asked her if she thought school might be canceled. I marveled at her answer. She said, I don't know, why don't you ask Steve? Such a concept. Steve's also learned to be patient. When he came, he had a million ideas, and like all young heads, a timeline to execute them. Tom Namick has often spoken about meetings with Steve, leaving them with a legal pad full of notes. But after his first year, Jim Jennings and Skip Snyder reminded him that schools moved slowly and that he did need to slow down. So how did he learn the patience? He learned it because he inherently believes in the goodness of people and their potential. And he knows, like the best educators, that knowledge and understanding come at different moments and in different ways. He recognizes the power of hope and encouragement, and the idea that sometimes tomorrow is a better day. How many times have many of us heard that we should respond and not react, which is always the moment I want to strangle him. And Steve, I must say, that is a response and not a reaction. But more often than not, he is right to wait, because sometimes things always look a little clearer with some distance. Steve knows how to show up, seemingly in multiple places at the same time. On sports fields, in theaters, at all performances, in classrooms, alumni events, and board meetings, to celebrate the moments big and small. He knows to give love and support, and then more love and support for those who experience life's coolest moments, and then bring the community together when it needs to heal. Yes, Steve has learned the line items of the Shipley budget, the story of each person, and the nuance of all curriculum. But I suspect he's learned most about himself in these past 18 months, since announcing his retirement. These 18 months have been challenging in some ways. The goodbyes are heartfelt, and the attention is blinding. And as we all know, Steve loves to shine attention on others, and does not like it shined on him. But he's also learned to appreciate that others want to share their affection for him and embrace it, begrudgingly at times. He too has learned to say goodbye, hand over the reins, and move to a new beginning. I've seen the shifts and the weaves, the ups and the downs, but I have seen, as so many of you have, that each day is a man who loves this place, who welcomes each hug and every story, sometimes with a laugh and sometimes with a tear. For the memories are rich and the work has been satisfying. I know we use the word transformative a lot in education, but it's a word I personally use sparingly. Undoubtedly, Steve has transformed Shipley. But has Shipley transformed Steve? He's very much the man who came here 27 years ago. Generous, optimistic, and deeply committed. So in those ways, I can't say Shipley has transformed him. But in other ways, the answer is categorically yes. It's transformed his life, and the life of our family. And in fact, it is the story of our family in so many ways. So here's to you, Steve. We raise a glass to you and say thank you. No one has been luckier than I and our beautiful children in so many ways to be on this journey with you. May the last days be as wonderful as the first. Embrace each moment, each hug, and every tear, for you deserve them all.
Good evening. When I arrived tonight, I was told two things. That there would be no introduction for me, and that I would be following Sonny Greenberg. So I'm in a hard spot. My name's Tom Hammack. If I've not met you, I had the privilege of working at Shipley from 1988 to 2005. So I caught the beginning of the Steve Piltch wave in 1992 and worked with and for him as the head of upper school for 12 years. Now, there have been a lot of compliments about many ways in which the facilities have improved, but I'd like to point out that that corner where the honors jazz combo performed, that was my parking space. What happened? So, I know that a great deal of thought and planning have gone into this very special evening. My wife Zandy, who taught at the school from 1982 until we left in 2005, she and I are both very touched and very pleased to be included. So Brooksley, thank you. Steve has told me confidentially, which is why I'm about to share it with all of you, that he's a little tired of hearing all of the nice things being written and said about him. So Steve, I hope you'll find what I have to say refreshing. Actually, this conclusion to a headship of 27 years is a historic moment for Shipley and a defining moment in the exceptional professional life that Steve has led and will continue to enjoy at the University of Pennsylvania. And I know it's been mentioned a couple of times tonight, but I truly want to congratulate you on your appointment there. It is a wonderful landing for an exceptional educator. So I am here to offer a tribute, not a roast, or at least mostly a tribute. I've been thinking about what I learned from Steve, both directly and by example, over a 12-year period as head of upper school, and then through the experience of serving on Shipley's Board of Trustees for the past 9 years. On a very practical note, I learned never to be late to a central administrative team meeting. And I see members of the team are present tonight, and I wonder if that lesson is still relevant. Because in the early days of Steve's headship, the agenda for those weekly meetings tended to be rather freewheeling, which means that either there was no agenda or the agenda went right out the window. If you happen to be the last person to enter the common room for a central administrative team meeting, there would be only one seat available. And that was the seat directly opposite to Steve. We called it the naughty chair. Steve's focus would be drawn to that person in that seat and his or her area of responsibility by what seemed to be an irresistible and unwavering force. And the occupant would enjoy the impact of Steve's full attention for a good 45 minutes to an hour. It was a bracing experience, but it was always better to be early than to be late. All right, enough of that. What did I learn from Steve that is of the greatest, the most lasting value for our life in school? 3 things. That love has an amazing, elastic quality, that there is, in fact, enough for everyone, especially every student. As one of 9 children, this lesson may be hardwired in Steve. That school is not a zero-sum enterprise in which students compete for attention, support, and understanding. In order for a school to fulfill its mission and be a place of integrity, there has to be more than enough of those qualities for each student in our care. And I want to point out that Sonny Greenberg, is a practitioner of this definition of integrity, as a teacher, as a dean, and as a colleague. And I would ask all of you to be upstanding in honor of Sonny Greenwood. I also learned from Steve that there is always another way. When we come up against a situation in which policy or practice cannot serve the best interest of a student, the belief that there is another way engenders something that could be called creative compassion. Steve, over the past 27 years, you have asked us, the faculty, the trustees, parents, me, 1,000 times, to think about and be guided by one question. What is best for our students? Simple to ask and always complex to answer. Not what is convenient for the faculty to implement, or what is easiest for a trustee to explain, or what is satisfying for a parent to hear and accept. In the heat of controversy or the quiet development of policy, it is a powerful, clarifying question. It is your question. And it is Shipley's North Star. What is best for our students? Many of Shipley's finest moments and accomplishments of the past 27 years fall into a simple, declarative statement about the response to Steve's question. Shipley has listened, Shipley has answered, and Shipley has acted. That leaves me to close with the last lines of Robert Frost's poem, Choose Something Like a Star. It asks of us a certain height. So when, at times, the mob is swayed to carry praise or blame too far, we may choose something like a star to stay our minds and to be stayed. Thank you, Steve, for leadership.
Steve, thank you for your leadership, not only of Shipley, but for bringing together the local K-12 schools and colleges and universities to help us realize the benefit of collaboration and pooling our resources in that way. On a personal level, I want to thank you for being a role model and a mentor, and for your way of sort of modeling for me positive and joyful leadership. I left each and every meeting with you with a renewed sense of hope and a reminder of what was the very best in the jobs that you and I get to do. So I'll very much miss seeing you regularly, and I wish you well in all of your endeavors.
Congratulations on your retirement. And one of the things that I want to share with you this evening is my sense of you as both friend, colleague, and mentor. And I think that's a trademark of who you are as a school leader. That people tend not to know you in one specific context. They know you in multiple contexts, and they can just define that and describe that about who you are and what you do. So one of the things that has been incredibly meaningful to me, Steve, when I think about you as a friend, mentor, and colleague, is your outreach to me at a pretty challenging moment this year when my mother passed away. You were on the phone, you knew I was away, you left messages, and when I returned to school, I felt like I was drinking from a fire hose after being away for a month. I see a letter addressed to me with a Shipley return address. And I'm assuming this is some communication about your retirement. And lo and behold, I opened this wonderful letter from you. One of the most heartfelt communications I have received from another head of school. And I took it home and showed it to my wife. And I said, who does this? And the answer was Steve. Steve does this. And in that moment, I felt cared for. My family felt supported. And I knew that you were a phone call away. That letter meant more than any phone call, any text messages, any email communication than you'll ever know. It also served as another reminder of the pastoral care we have. And not only how do we provide pastoral care to our own communities, but how do we provide pastoral care to our colleagues. Thank you, Steve.
Well, I promise this is the last time you'll hear from me tonight. In just a moment, we will pass the basket around to collect up all of the comments that people have had. If you haven't had a chance to do it, I'd encourage you to take a moment and I know Steve will carry them. I'd like to take a moment to thank the very many people who have made tonight possible. Val Miller, first and foremost, the entirety of CAP. The entirety of the central administrative team, the communications team, the development office, Wayne and his team with Sage, who have fed us so beautifully, Travis, Dave Rich, who filmed all of the video toasts and edited the videos, Bob, Joe, and the physical plant staff. We all wanted to put together a night that at least somewhat captures how very special you are, Steve. Hopefully we have done that. It is our privilege to honor and celebrate you, not only as our outgoing head of school, but also as a trustee, a colleague, a student, and a friend. Earlier this week, at our last Board of Trustees meeting, trustees recognized Steve's incredible participation with the board at the reception to honor retiring trustees. And at that time, we presented Steve with a picture of this building, this room, which we hope that you will enjoy. In the ordinary course, we would recognize you as a colleague and recognize you as a student at the all-colleague meeting and at graduation. We felt that it was really important for those events to be left to the students, and so we are instead going to do that tonight. Colleagues who have been with the school for 20 plus years at their retirement receive a chair, a Shipley chair, and we would like for you to have one also. It's over here. And we hope that you enjoy it in your new home. In recognition of your participation in all endeavors as a lifelong student, we would also like to honor you with a diploma, an actual diploma, not an honorary diploma, from the Shipley School. I'm not done. One of the things that we have done this year is engage in a campaign to celebrate the 125th anniversary of the school and also Steve's retirement and his contributions to the school. And as a part of that campaign, the Piltch Family Fund was established by family, friends, and trustees of the school. The Piltch Family Scholarship Fund honors the contributions and commitment of Steve Piltch as our 9th head of school. It celebrates the experiences that Steve, Sonny, and their 3 children have had during their years here. The fund supports or will support scholarships awarded to students with financial need who demonstrate passion for life and compassion for others. Although not specifically restricted, it is the founding donor's intent that the scholarship or scholarships be awarded to students who matriculate from schools such as the Jesus School, the Chester Charter School for the Arts, Young Scholars Charter School, and the Ad Premature. At present, there are 53 donors who have committed in excess of $825,000. It is our goal to get the fund to a principal balance of in excess of $1 million, and we are optimistic that we will get there. This isn't a fundraising event, but anyone who wants to participate, do give a call. We are incredibly appreciative of the donors who have contributed to the fund, and we are very happy to have this as an offering to students going forward. We are so pleased it's happening in the Piltch family. Earlier this year, to honor the long tradition of reading his favorite children's book, A Rainbow of Friends, to lower school students, and to establish a physical space that recognizes Steve on the lower school campus, the chairs of this year's auction committee, Gretchen Cooney, Patty Dietrich, Jackie Sims, and Kathy Smith, together with the development office and the lower school leadership, proposed and the board approved the naming of a physical reading circle being built in connection with the planned improvements to the lower school playground. That reading circle, which will be installed over the summer, will be known as the Dr. Piltch Rainbow of Friends Reading Circle. I encourage everyone to come visit next year. And finally, earlier tonight, I briefly described the ways in which the campus has changed during Steve's time here. In my opinion, the most significant addition to the campus is this building. The building of the Commons completed the campus quad, bringing a new sense of physical cohesion to our community. It is the hub of student life. It brings all divisions, all activities, and all constituencies together. The design of this building took a long time. It was repeatedly rethought following input from all constituencies about what they wanted and how they best expected to use the space. It is a powerful testament to the inclusive, process-oriented approach that you heard Steve employs and that Steve brings to all endeavors. This building was well conceived, and it still has exceeded all expectations. It is also beautiful, and it will continue to have an impact on every facet of the Shipley experience for students for many, many years to come. At this time, Steve, I am honored to announce to you that in recognition of and with deepest appreciation for your incredible contributions to the Shipley community over the past 27 years, and in recognition of the legacy that you leave, the Board of Trustees has determined that effective July 1st, 2019, because that's the policy, this building will be known as the Piltch Commons.
It's really a pleasure for me to be here to help celebrate the leadership of Steve Piltch. Steve is someone that I view as a close friend and a trusted colleague. I smiled actually this morning as I started the day with a tweet from Steve, as I often do, about some accomplishment of a Shipley student or occasionally something that a Boston sports team has done. I'll miss those tweets going forward. As I think about Steve's leadership, there are some themes that come clearly through to me. The first is his deep commitment to the mission of Shipley as a school. Also, he has a strong moral compass that influences his decision-making. He possesses a willingness to lead Shipley in new directions that will strengthen the mission of the school. And at all times, he has an abiding responsibility for the students entrusted to him. What a great combination for Shipley and for Steve. Steve, I join your many friends in wishing you Godspeed as you continue on your leadership journey, and I thank you for all you have done for the independent school community in Philadelphia.
For three incredible gifts that you've given me and my family and our community. The first is the gift of educating the Fry children, starting with Mia back when she was a kindergartner in 1995, and then Nat, who graduated in 2013, and now my Phoebe, who's graduating in just a couple of weeks. What an enormous start in life you've given to them because of this incredible liberal arts education that they've received. Secondly is the gift of creating such a humane culture at this school, which I think is its great defining characteristic. And your leadership and your stewardship and your example and your humanity have established the culture, which is the most important gift that any school can have. And your enduring legacy will be the humane culture that you've helped create at this marvelous school. And the last gift is the gift of so many graduates who find their way from Shipley to Drexel University and continue to thrive and lead and do wonderful civic work. I'm so deeply proud of the connection between our schools. And so, Steve, thank you for your marvelous leadership, your enduring legacy, your friendship over the years, and I look forward to seeing you in West Philly next year.
So much for not wanting to be the center of attention. Let me begin, first of all, by thanking each and every one of you for taking the time to be here tonight. It is incredibly rewarding and reinforcing to have you in the room. And I'm appreciative not just of your presence here, but for the remarkable support you've given me over the years, you've given the school over the years. We wouldn't be where we are without the difference you've all made in this community. And I would be forever grateful for that. I want to thank all of the people who spoke tonight, either in terms of the toast or in person. Somewhat difficult to sit there and listen and wonder who they're really talking about. Because the reality is that during my 27 years here, if I've had any of the impact that people have described, I'm grateful for it. But more importantly, as you heard from our kids on some levels, the impact that this institution and the people in this room have had on me, have had on our family, is beyond description. I'll be forever grateful for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I do have to say that when I first arrived here, a lot of people asked the question, how does a squash coach become the head of a school? Ironically, and I'll come back to that in a moment, 27 years later, I happen to believe if I have any of the skills to be the head of a school, and I know that's still debatable, they come from having had the privilege to coach our men's and women's squash teams at Harvard, participate in competitive sports and other things that pushed us to understand who we are and how to bring out the best in people. But interestingly enough, tonight's event brings me back to my career at Harvard in a slightly different way. It brings me back to Jack Barnaby's 80th birthday party. How many of you know who Jack Barnaby was? Probably the single best known tennis and squash coach in the history of the world, and a remarkable man. And at his 80th birthday party, he put on the back of his shirt that like everyone, his favorite saying, which is exactly how I feel tonight. The older we get, the better we work. I do have to tell you that people's recollections
of my impact in this community are a lot more positive tonight than any number of times in the past 25 years. I do want to take a moment, though, first to thank Jim Jennings, Skip Snyder, and the other members of that search committee back in 1991-92 who took the risk, some of them were in the room by the way, to hire the unknown quantity from Harvard. And then I also want to thank Jim and Skip, and I'm sure to hear Betty Peterson, and you both. In my first year, they may not remember this, but I do vividly, they served as a transition committee. And the neatest part of that experience is they demonstrated exactly what you want in board members and communities. They created a situation where they supported me unconditionally and allowed me to make more than my share of mistakes, and always came back at it in a positive, productive way about how we, and I repeat, we could do it better. I'm happy to say that for the ensuing 26 years, I've continued to make those mistakes, and I've continued to be surrounded by a remarkable group of people whose first and driving question has always been, what's best for the students? I want to take a moment just to mention the board chairs under whom I've had the privilege to serve. As I do that, I'm actually giving thanks not just to them, but to every member of the Board of Trustees who served during those periods of time, through thick and thin, to help us answer that question, what's best for the students. When I first arrived, Skip was the chair of the board. Jim Jennings followed him. Fred Fletcher was the third board chair I had the privilege to serve on. Fred was followed quickly after 4 years of doing a great job by Beth Huckett, who was the longest serving board chair under whom I had the privilege to serve, did it for 7 years. Then following Beth as she stepped down, Suzanne, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I think, I don't know where Adam is sitting. Adam Spector was the sixth board chair, and Brooks is the seventh. And I have to tell you, seven's a lucky number. In many schools, board chairs tend to serve for a year or two, and then it's move on. That's a difficult challenge for heads of school, because it takes you a year or two to really begin to work together in the most positive and constructive way. And I want to say, though I haven't mentioned their names, helping in that process with our board chairs and the continuity and consistency that they created have been the vice chair of the board. And the interesting thing is that over the past 27 years, one of the most important ongoing meetings that I would have was with the board chair and the vice chair on a weekly or every other week basis. And the really interesting piece about that is that in those meetings, it wasn't all agreement. Quite often, we disagreed in really intense and important ways that would ultimately bring us to a place that would be better for the school. One of the things they learned in those meetings, as my colleagues on our CAP team, board members and others have learned, is one of the things one of my assistant coaches said regularly when I was at Harvard. Steve is the easiest person in the world to get along with, as long as you agree with him. I'm happy to say, first he's right. And there's no one who knows that better than my extraordinary wife and our kids. I'm going to diverge just for a second to say, son, Allie, calm, Allie's husband, Jane, and wow. I have always been proud of you and grateful to have you be my family. But tonight, you made me ask, why didn't I retire 5 years earlier? I'm grateful to my siblings, Mark, Kim, my blood, Tibbs. We've had a remarkable role. I think it's important, and Sonny acknowledged this, that any number of us have had a career in education. My parents, though they never had a college degree, believed education was the heart of all growth. And as I acknowledge all of them, I want to specifically mention in this moment my brother Neil, who 2 weeks ago retired as the head of the Manzano Day School after 18 years, pre-K through 5. That means that between us, we've served independent schools for 45 years. While my parents are looking down, maybe feeling a little bit proud, they're significantly relieved that our schools have survived. Congrats to them. So as I thank the people I have, I mentioned that from my first days here as the head of the school, it was clear that this was an institution that was committed to the welfare of the students, regardless of what the situation was at the moment. And when I arrived, we had a terrific group of teachers, administrators, who were making a difference. A few of them, I think, are in the room, but I want to specifically mention Greg Coleman, who actually provided the toast. Dee here, Dee Cherwin Brown, two of the lead administrators that we started with. More thematic and others. Grateful they found a way to put up with a new head of school who may have been a little quick in some of the things he did. In fact, to tell you the truth about what Greg Coleman actually said to me on the day that we went for lunch at Wyndham and then walked home, he looked at me and he said, "Can I ask you a personal question?" I said, "Of course." Did the Board of Trustees hire you to come in and make sweeping change and then leave? It's 26 years later, so I think that the answer to the question is evident. But the point was an important one for all of us in schools. As a new head of school, I was in a place where I believed it was going to be 25 years before change happened. And from Greg's perspective, too much had already happened. And I'd ask you, if you're involved with institutions, who is right? I would tell you both. And it's this way. Is that, from my perspective, we were only a couple months in, and nothing seemed to have changed. And telling you that 25 years later, I'm continuing to ask many of the same questions I did, will tell you that that's the ongoing necessity in institutions. From Greg's perspective, things have changed too quickly. And yet, when you look at it, there's a clear, easy understanding of why we saw it differently. As the new head of the school, I had no idea what the culture of the school would be. I made a lot of assumptions, many of which probably weren't right. And yet, from Greg and the people in the community's perspective, there was a new head of school who was willing and interested in moving things forward, so that just by presence of someone new, the culture of the institution was changing. It took us some time to come together to coalesce in a way that makes sense. But ultimately, the people who made that happen, many of them are sitting in this room. Specifically, I want to thank all of the members of the Board of Trustees over the years who are committed to that question, what's best for the students. And of course, my incredible colleagues. And I ask you to join me in giving the members, and I'm going to ask them to please stand, the members of our current central administrative team to be kind enough to stand, because they deserve a resounding round of applause. Said countless times that they and my other colleagues and the parents of this school who want only the best for their students and the kids themselves are the ones who make things happen. We should never lose sight of that. Whatever it is we had the privilege to accomplish as an institution, it's because people have believed in it together. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. And so while it would be really wonderful and easy to take credit for some of what's said, I would be remiss in doing that. Because it really is the people of not just Shipley's institution, but others in the area who have made a difference. When I arrived 27 years ago, one of the groups in the area that I found to be remarkably supportive that you wouldn't believe were the other heads of school. It's a very interesting area. Greater Philadelphia is among the most competitive, independent school-filled areas in the entire country. And yet, we find a time once a month to meet collectively, to share thoughts, to try to be supportive. The neat part about that is that when things don't go well, as is true in institutions, the group comes together to revisit what the mission of all of our schools are, and the need to collaborate and work together. I'm incredibly grateful to all of those heads over the years, and some of them are here, not just the Club 14 heads, but other heads in the area whom I've had the privilege to get to know and work with. And I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge all of them, if you would join me to give them. Would they stand for a moment, please? By the way, two in the room who were particularly important to me, who were long-standing heads when I arrived, and became remarkable mentors in really special ways. And those of you who know them know how special they are. But I'm speaking, of course, to Blair Stambaugh. And to Earl Ball. These are relationships that have transcended time, and they continue to serve as mentors and to be friends in really important ways. And I'd like to mention that I am incredibly excited to be moving on to Penn at the end of this year to become the director of the program. And one of the biggest reasons for that is I have the privilege of succeeding a person who set the tone for all of that, who you happen to have heard from tonight. And I want to thank Earl Ball for the good work he's done with that. and for continuing to be a mentor for me. Thank you. Thank you. I did pretty well. I thought I was going to cry 4 times by now. Most importantly, before I step up, Brooksley, members of the board, and others. First, you've done a great job tonight. Thank you. As someone who doesn't necessarily believe that anybody's name should be on anything, I am nevertheless incredibly touched by the board's and friends of the community's gifts. First, with regards to the scholarship, my thanks to those who have established it. And if you know Sonny and you know our kids and you know me, we're excited most about it, not because it's in our name, but because it will provide children in the greater Philadelphia area who come from less privileged backgrounds an opportunity to attend Shipley. That's part of what this school is all about. And we're grateful for the wonderful preparation that those kids come with, and then the way they do Shipley. They make us feel. I would mention that selfishly and particularly, it's my hope that it will help us draw students from all of the schools that were mentioned, but specifically here I'll mention the JSU school, whose president, Brian Carter, serves on our board. And people in the room know this, but I say it publicly, openly, and honestly, that JSU is my second favorite independent school so far. Did all that? Yes. Our senior class president, Aishia Johnson, is a graduate. As for the naming of a Rainbow of Friends reading circle and the renaming of the Commons, I tell a quick story that may bring a tear or two, but brings back my very early years here in a very special way. As you know, the dining room, this room, which has become my favorite room in the school, partly because I've gained 25 pounds in it in the last 2 months, is named in the memory of Avery Silverman, who very early on, when her family was involved in the Bocce Pizza restaurant up in Harlem. And it was about the second month of school, and this young 8 or 9 or 10-year-old came up to Sonny and me as we were eating pizza and having a really nice time. She was with her grandmother. And she said, "Dr. Piltch, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Avery Silverman." You would have thought she was like 17. And I just want you to know how excited we are that you're here. And please, if you need any help, let me know. Well, I'm happy to say, privileged, that with the renaming of the Commons as it is, Avery will be continuing to look over. As for the naming of the reading center, I had no idea when I began reading that book 25 years ago that in essence, you can cut my legacy to a rainbow of friends. But you know, it's not a bad way to go. It's a book that speaks to the values of this institution and what I believe should be the values of every institution. If if you want to talk about the character development that we're committed to, the positive education that we've taken on, the celebration of the students as individuals, the belief in cooperation, collaboration, and understanding. They're all in that book. More important than the book becomes the lessons that we learn and the importance of doing the things it pushes us to do. I have loved the opportunity to read that book, but what I've loved more is to watch our kids develop from pre-K on through grade 12. When you're the head of a school, your greatest privilege is watching those students develop. And as a result of the work of so many terrific people in this community, the memory bank that Sonny and I and others have is truly extraordinary. There are some alums in the room, in addition to Neil, would you be kind enough to raise your hand if you're an alum whom I have had the privilege to hand a diploma to? My own children don't do Ben earned his diploma yesterday. I do want to mention, because two of the three are here, that among those alums, three very special members of this community. It's the only time it's ever happened here, and my guess in any other school, is that three sisters, they're all incredible people, but very different individuals, all served as our all-school president. If I could ask the two language sisters who are here to please stand up and appreciate it. As I look at Ellen and Jilly who are there, and Ben in the back, and my own children, the challenge in schools is that too often we want to measure success in the moment. We want to measure success by the scores they get, the grades they earn, the games they win, the colleges they get into. And while those are important stepping stones, the only way we really know how we've done it is who they become as adults. And let me say this, and Neil, I appreciated your nice words. For me, the thing that I'm proudest of is that as I have watched remarkable groups of students from pre-K through grade 12 for more than 25 years, I'm particularly proud of the people they've become as they've looked to continue to live our mission, one of excellence, love of learning, and the passion of participation in the world, where they want to do well, they want to do good, where in fact they balance great passion for what they do with compassion for others. They want to do well, they want to do good. And along the way, often live our motto, courage for the deed, grace for the deed. When I look back at my 27 years here, I'm beginning to break. In my 27 years, I will have had the privilege to hand diplomas to thousands of students. You know what's interesting? As we have handed them those diplomas, what they have come back to do for us and for the community at large has been particularly special. This is an institution that has been, and under Michael's direction will continue to be, about the individual student being challenged, being supported, being pushed to become the best they can so that ultimately they can thrive and flourish. One of the things I have loved most is that as we have met our challenges, we've seen the loss of people in this community. And my thoughts and my love and prayers continue to be with those. That the community has come together in special ways. As Neil talked about with Will, and also with Brian and others. Having both Will's mom and Brian's mom here is special. I ask you to join me in giving them a round of applause. I'm going to repeat that Howard and Martin, I'm most pleased that they do. I'll be looking over you. Good luck. Thank you. So, it's time to bring this to a close, and I know that the challenge for me at this particular point is that I have loved this job more than you can possibly imagine. When people ask me, why did Sonny and I decide now? I'm not sure we really know the answer, except that it coincided with the school's 125th. It just made sense. And in that time, as we're looking forward, we're grateful for all that has been. And I'm confident, and if you haven't met Michael, and many of you haven't, you need to get to know him and provide the same kind of support for him and his family as you have for us. He's committed to educational excellence, well-being, compassionate participation in work. He's committed to the integration of positive education into everything that we do. He's committed to the celebration of students, which has long been the history of this school and will continue to be. I'll finish with an anecdote that many know, that I've told many times. When I arrived, one of the more influential people who was still very much alive, whom I had the privilege to know, was Margaret Bailey Spear, who was the headmistress of the school from 1944 to 1965. When I arrived, she lived at Waverly Heights. She was in the early to mid-90s, and I apologize to board members who heard this the other day. But I have the privilege, and Tom will remember this, to have lunch with her on occasion. I think Tom's doing this on at least one occasion. And the lunch would always take on the same kind of characteristics. She would be able to tell me about the school that she had been the headmistress of for a minute or two or three. And then I would have the pleasure of talking about the school of today. But then the most important part of the discussion that ever took place was, what would the school be like in 10 years? The first time we had that discussion, I couldn't think 10 minutes in front of myself. But now, almost 30 years later, it becomes the most important question you ask. As you look to meet the needs of the students of today, you have to keep your eye on what's going to be tomorrow. And that's the approach that makes schools successful. With that in mind, this is a school that with all of its commitment to all of the things I've spoken about, is really about people. It's the people who have defined this community for 125 years. It's the people who will continue to define this. You didn't have an opportunity to really hear from our students tonight, but you did from Henry, and I thank him for his nice words. They're the ones who tell our story. And I'm grateful to them for the story that they tell on an ongoing basis. And I'm grateful, by the way, for the terrific job they do representing themselves and the community. And a special thank you for the jazz kids who really performed tonight. It made my day, so thank you. And when we think about those students, their time here goes quickly. But as my own children have suggested in what they said, it's just the first step in the process. And so, as we bring tonight to a close, let's remember this is just a step in the process. As Sonny and I and our kids move on to the next place, we will look back on this time with incredible memories and experiences that will shape the things we do for the rest of our lives. And we will continue to love Shipley in a really special way. And the reason many of you who are here this week and others who have made this school what it is. I want to thank you all one last time for being good enough to take the time out of your day to be here tonight. This has been a very surreal experience. But if I had to experience it, and I don't want that to sound bad, I'm grateful to have had the privilege to do it with all of you. Thank you for making our school the school it has been. Thank you for the support you have provided Sonny, our kids, and me. Thank you most for your belief in the school and the ongoing commitment you will make sure that Shipley continues to be the very best it can be. I have exactly 8 days to graduation. This year's graduation will have a very different meaning to me. When I hand that last diploma, it will be a wonderful feeling to know that our class of 2019 is ready to move to that next step. And whether Henry likes it or not, I am going to call him for lunch. Have a wonderful night, and thank you very much. Standing has been nice, not because of the ovation, but which I am appreciative of. But please, I ask you to please remain standing because I'd like to ask you to join us in the singing of our school song. And then I think that just after that, Adam Spector will have some last words. So if you need the words, they are on the back of the program. Thank you, friends and family, for being here. I love you.
Thank you.
So, just before, thank you, could we thank the music people for I want to thank all the people behind the scenes tonight. And by the way, symbolically, I want to give a special thanks to our food service. This is the way our kids eat every day. We only serve wine on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Would you give them a round of applause?
You're not allowed to leave yet. So, you don't have to stand here. Sit in your chair. I've always wanted to say that. Sit in the chair. So, you've been here for several hours, listening to all these people say really, really wonderful things about you. And Brooksley was worried that it might go over her head, so she asked me to come up and end the evening. And I think that the easiest way to let a little air out of the Piltch balloon here is to remind everyone that your 27 years of success is really due to one thing, and that's your partnership with Sonny. For now. So Sonny is an incredible educator, a master teacher who's had a huge impact on our curriculum, on our students. But somehow, while changing the course of hundreds of students' lives, you've also managed to keep him in line and almost on time. And Steve, we all know that you've launched thousands of graduates into the world. You've counseled families in need and raised tens of millions of dollars for fantastic facilities, this building, the new Piltch Commons, athletic facilities. But what some of you might not know is what students really like most about the new facilities. And it's not the pizza oven or this dining room. It's something special about the gym. And that's that they can wander in there at a special hour and get a glimpse of Dr. Piltch on the treadmill, sweating profusely, singing about his love for sunny roads, as he runs and does it all in a suit and tie. It is quite the scene. And speaking of running, or more accurately, walking, you should all know that Steve has fans across Bryn Mawr. I left work today and told one of my colleagues that I was coming to my friend Steve's retirement dinner, and they really had no idea who Steve Piltch was. But then he kind of dawned on him, and he said, "Oh, Steve, I know who Steve is. That's the old guy in the Patriots hoodie who wanders up and down like this around." So all of Bryn Mawr is going to miss Steve. Now, before we get to the more poignant parts of the remarks, there are a few more gifts that the board would like to give Steve in recognition of 27 years of absolutely stellar service. Now, As people mentioned before, Steve has certain habits, so on behalf of all of Steve, a bouquet of flowers. Because before tonight, you were the only Shipley colleague the school had never bought flowers for. Now, in addition for you, we have a pair of these very fashionable jeans. And your kids are going to appreciate this because they're not like those dad jeans that you really like. But we couldn't buy you the skinny jeans either. You know what? Unlike you, Steve, Amy Gutman doesn't have a no jeans on campus rule, and we didn't want to see you in those rumpled khakis all over campus. You should retire early. You know, one warning to you though, you'll notice on those jeans, there is a zipper. Your memory's not what it used to be. We know what your habits are, so before you get in front of that class, zip up. And finally, because we do know that no matter how much you're going to love your new job, there's no place you'd rather be than with your kids. So here's an Amtrak ticket for you. Now, all of you got to hear from 3 of Steve's wonderful kids earlier tonight, all who are proud Shipley graduates. But the great thing for all of us in this community is that in reality, Steve actually has more than 3 children. See, over his 27 years here, Steve has given love and attention to each and every student as if they were his own child. From reading to kindergartners to handing out diplomas, Steve has personally nurtured and molded our collective children. He's created a community in which each child can thrive and find their own greatness. And now these thousands of graduates, Steve, are making their mark on the world, passing on your sense of compassion and justice, of empathy and drive. And while we certainly owe Steve a debt, so does the wider world. Now, for all of you who know Steve so well, in some ways it's hard to imagine that someone so stubborn has had a 27-year run at an independent school where the average tenure of a head is really only a handful of years. But we're lucky, we're fortunate that some of the board members who are here with us tonight 27 years ago, or a little longer than that, took a bet and hired a celebrated squash coach as the head of school. There were plenty of doubters at that time, but not for long. Steve took an institution that truthfully at the time was losing money at a pretty decent clip, and he turned it into an institution that's vibrant and financially stable. And because of that financial stability, one of the most recent things the school did was to build new squash courts. Certainly full circle, Steve. As Steve knows, one of the jobs of the head of school is to be at events. It seems like almost every night of the week sometimes. And I've had the pleasure of attending a number of those events with Steve. And at those gatherings, when older graduates would come up and want to speak to Steve, he would often tell stories of Miss Spear, who we mentioned earlier, who before Steve was the longest serving head of Shipley, and certainly one of the more renowned. And as the story goes, these graduates would come up to Miss Spear and they'd ask her, why has the school changed so much? Aren't you concerned that it's changed so much? And her answer was that if the school had not changed, you wouldn't want your children to attend it. And Steve, in many ways, the core of Shipley has not changed since the days of Miss Spear. But in many more ways, Shipley is quite different than the school you inherited. And it's your deft touch in combining tradition and evolution that will make Shipley strive for generations to come. Your equal focus on rigor and nurture, your introduction of positive education, astute financial management, fresh and hiring, all of that has led to the school's success. And while it's hard to imagine Shipley without you, it's easy to see how the school will continue to grow along the path that you have blazed. And as I said, some things have changed over time, but others have not. One of them is that great institutions are marked by great leaders, and you are certainly one of them. When we think of you, Steve, we think of the school's motto: courage for the deed, grace for the doing. At graduation in a few days, I'm sure one of the things that Steve will tell the graduates, the class of 2019, is how proud he is of what they've accomplished, but that he can't wait to see what they'll do next. And Steve, that's what all of us are thinking here tonight. We're in your debt, we'll miss you, and we can't wait to see what you'll next accomplish. So please, everyone, I don't have one, but raise your glasses and join me in saying to Steve, thank you, and thank you. Cheers.